During the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Economic Development Authority of Front Royal and Warren County on July the 26th, 2019. First item on our agenda, we have lost one of our officers. Bruce has resigned. He was the Vice Chairman. So we do need to elect a Vice Chairman to take his place. I am open for nominations from the board.
I nominate Ed Daly.
Ed Daly has been nominated. Is there a second? Second. Are there other nominations? All those in favor of Ed Daly being our new Vice Chairman, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, Ed Daly is our new Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I am Secretary. Should we now elect a new Secretary?
Yes, we probably should do that, yes. All right, Ed is going to exit his Secretary job. That will leave that office open. Are there nominations for Secretary of the EDA?
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Mr. Brown.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of Jeff Brown being our new Secretary, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Additions and deletions to our agenda. Anyone have?
For the LOC? I don't know, I just want to suggest we had a new resolution very recently to extend the line of credit for the development authority for the First Bank and Trust. So I would ask if someone can make a motion to entertain that resolution.
I would make a motion to entertain that resolution. Probably under item 9. That seems to be where our business is.
Yeah, and we can discuss this, you know, the details about the resolution and what
at that time.
Sure.
And I would like to move item 12 to.
Let's see, what exactly is that?
The resolution for the line of credit.
Okay, line of credit.
And then I would like to move item 12.2, which talks about our committees, to item 9 right after the discussion of the communications committee, because they go together. They follow each other.
Which item is that in?
Item 12.2, the very last item on the back, the activate committees. When you put that, it's right after.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Does anyone have an objection to that?
You just need a motion to.
I so move those two things. I move to adopt the agenda with those two amendments.
Okay, we have a motion to move that 12.2 to number 9, following the motion to form the Communications Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have another item under item 9.
We can get a second. Second.
Okay. All right, we had fairly extensive minutes from the last meeting. Did anyone find anything that needed to be corrected?
Mr. Chairman, I noticed on page number 7, paragraph number 3, the minutes reference to Comfort Inn. The actual displaced residents are staying in Quality Inn, if I'm not mistaken.
We have that correction to the minutes. Is there other items? Entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting as presented to us with the correction.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
I could not vote because I wasn't here, so just like that.
Okay. Financials are next on the agenda. I think they need to be passed out possibly.
Are there extra copies of these, Mr. Chairman?
We can make some extra copies.
I was thinking, you and our guests might want to look at them.
Absolutely.
See what
I will. Make copies from these. I have them at the end.
Questions or comments about the financials?
Could we get a brief explanation of what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's what,
Sure. If you want to look at the loan balances, so the first one, the 40,000 payment amount, loan ending is 1580 IT Federal. That's the IT Federal loan that's Hertran makes a payment on every month, which is then sent to the bank. So, you know, that's a wash for us.
So we make the payment, then he reimburses us for that payment.
Well, yeah, he sends the payment in, and then we make. But yeah, he makes the payment.
His payment is actually a little higher than that, isn't it? 42,000 and change.
Yes. It's 42,160, I believe, and then our payment to the bank is 40,000. The second First Bank and Trust loan is a line of credit, and that line of credit expired on June 30th, and we'll be discussing the resolution and the scenario that the bank is presenting for the renewal of that line of credit. The payment amount is dropped because we made a principal payment of $757,000 toward that line of credit. So our payment is dropped from 30-some thousand down to 28,196. The First Bank, the Stokes building, that's a straightforward loan on that property. The other First Bank, that's the combined loan. Then the United loans, the first one, the 22,450, that's the payment for the 426 Ball Drive building. The next two loans are loans that were opened up for the Happy Creek Phase 2 project and the West Main Connector project. Those loans were never used. The balance that we have in those two loans are just a closing cost on those loans.
So I'm going to ask a question there. If we're not using them, can we close them?
Possibly. I've been working with Carolyn Stimmel. We're not entirely sure why those loans were open in the first place. I believe it had something to do with the new market tax credits and the promise of those being applicable to these projects. Happy Creek Phase 2, that's for the road improvements between town and Leech Run Parkway. Those monies for that project have not been obtained, so it's a bit of a mystery why that loan was ever opened in the first place.
And it's $15.25.
Well, that's the interest. The principal balance on that loan is around $6,000, and that was for the closing cost for the loan. So that is something we could look into, is whether or not we can just close those loans back out again, or if we should keep them open in case those projects progress.
It just seems like it would make sense to clean those things up.
yeah, I agree completely.
It's just, they're just hanging out there with pennies on them.
Well, it goes, I think it goes to the idea that the Finance Committee ought to look at these and spend time just on these and be able to talk about, well, let's close this, let's close that, let's get this off the books. And,
Right.
I think would make it easier for us, and also with a balance on here, would make it easier for us to follow.
Okay, understood. The next one was termed Avtex infrastructure. In working with Carolyn, we've yet to determine exactly what that loan was for. She's trying to untangle that one as well. The next one's the police department. That's a very straightforward deal, strictly for construction of the police department. That's a loan that will hopefully be taken out soon by the permanent financing through the town. And Carolyn's been working on that as well. And then the Leech Run Parkway, that is probably our most nebulous loan and project. There were expenditures for that project that came from a variety of loans, and Carolyn's working to untangle that, and that's going to take some time.
Maybe the suggestion is we untangle one of those. Let's get it off the books.
Absolutely.
And then if we get another one and start on it, we could take these piecemeal and get some of them that she can figure out. And I realize it's very complicated. I'm really thrilled to have these because, you know, until last month we weren't even able to get these, so it's major progress. But I think now that we can start to see it, we ought to be looking at how we can close some of them, get them off the books.
But if we're trying to do the police department, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah, Carolyn has identified principal amount for the police department. She's managed to untangle that. And then the interest that would be assigned to the police department. I think she's there and she's working with BJ Wilson at the town to make sure they're on the same page and in agreement. BJ obviously has some questions and she's working with him to try to get there. But what she's had to do is go back through time. There were draws and payments on the police department that didn't necessarily come from that loan as it should have. And so she's had to go back and look at the principal and the interest on each of those draws and determine what it should have been versus what it was, so that we're asking for the right amount of interest from the town for the police department and then giving them a true and accurate number, and that's what we're trying to do.
And I'm just saying, there's so many cups, and things got put in all these different cups, that any of these cups, any of these loans that we can sort out and come to that little loan, this 1525 on here, and get it off the books. And when the town is going to be working with the town, when the town's ready to take the police station off there, we want to take it off. But any of these small things that we can take off so that they're done and they're correct, we ought to move them. I know she's been working very hard at this, and we appreciate it very much what she's been doing to get them done.
Right.
And be able to be an important thing, I think, for the finance committee to work on.
Carolyn will be in later this morning, and if you would like to have her come in the closed session and explain some of this in more detail, I think she'll
No. And I'm not questioning anything. I'm just suggesting that we can find any of them, that we can move that one, any one of these down to get it closed.
Or possibly consolidate
Or
possibly
consolidate.
other things. It would be good to know too, Doug, what are the terms of some of these? I mean, what are the interest rates? I mean, basically the detail behind the detail.
Just even the balance.
Well, you have balance in the back.
Okay.
If I can make a comment, following up on what Ed had said, you know, he had mentioned that this sheet and this report has come a long way since we had nothing basically. As the finance committee gets developed and as these reports become developed, do you think that we have the skill set and or the manpower, or the human resources I should say, to actually start creating those reports that they're in generally accepted accounting principles such as a balance sheet, an income statement, a statement of cash flows? 3 basic reports that gives you, you know, what everybody in the industry understands these reports to be.
Absolutely. I'm working with Heather at Hottle and Willis.
I've been asking for that for a year and a half.
Let's put it to
But
that.
you see, the books are not Right,
Yeah.
so that what we're gonna get out of it is not gonna be correct.
Okay.
But when they get it done, I thought they would have it by now, but not yet.
Okay, fair enough.
Any piece of it is gonna help. Will the county be providing a monthly report now on finances, since they're now the fiscal agent?
Yes, and the county is, as we transition into the fiscal agency, the county has set up accounts for the EDA. Our deposits are going into that account, and the only thing we're waiting for there is to get the checks. So that we can, we have to have a balance in the account to order the checks. We're waiting for the checks to arrive. They may be here now, but we should be able to start.
Starting in August, there's probably some type of monthly report that the county sends to all the departments. I'm guessing, I guess that's a Mr. Stanley question, but I'm thinking they usually have a monthly report that goes to all their entities on their status. What's going on.
All right, the remainder of this seems to be just balances. Does anyone need to know any more about those?
Well, again, I just think, detail. We need to understand what's going on. In particular, number 2 is a concern to me, $9 million line of credit.
And what's the difference between this line and the 17 million I've heard kicked around?
Just what's left of it that hadn't been spent, I believe.
17 million was the actual, up to 17 million, but the outstanding balance is the 9 million.
So if it's a $17 million line of credit, and we took out just the 10.
That's what we've utilized so far.
So
So 9 of the 17 has been utilized.
Correct.
So is there any, 9 or 10?
It's right, 9,015,000.
9 million. On the line 2.
Line 2 on the back, 9,015,000, $142.
And that's all that is now owed on that $10 million bucket.
That line of credit, it's a line of credit.
Yeah, I
There's
understand.
no collateral on the line of credit. The town and county have a moral obligation on the line of credit. And the line of credit's in the name of the EDA.
But the 9 million is what we took out.
Yes, that's much as currently at. That's the outstanding balance on it.
So there's another 8 million that has not been taken out.
Correct, that we could borrow if we needed to.
It's unutilized.
Is there, and I understand it's unutilized. If it's unutilized, rather, my question, think about for the committee, is it necessary to keep that high of a line of credit, or could we reduce that? Not today, just something for the committee to think about, whether we need to keep 17 million if we're only using 9.
Something that we could discuss as we extend the line of credit and renew it. Absolutely. I'm sure the bank would go along with lowering the limit.
And I don't think we have any plans to make any further draws on that line of credit. It was only designated for town and county projects, and I don't believe that
Because it's,
I think we also need to explore the negatives of actually reducing that line, because if there's a cost to carry it, that's one thing, but if there's a cost to try to
it's just,
pull it back in, why would we want to? But there is a security of knowing that.
it just cleans up the books, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Details.
Exactly. So,
Yep.
So what's the second sheet, Doug?
These are our cash balances. The United Bank checking account, First Bank checking account, United Bank IRP, that's for the 4 bigger USDA loans that we have. That's the intermediary relending program. We have 2 CDs through United Bank. So the checks deposited into the new county account for under the fiscal agency, that's the 123. And then the new IRP account, that's what's been deposited there.
What's IRP account?
intermediary relending program. That's one of the USDA loan programs along with the microloan program that we manage. Then we have a First Bank and Trust account. That $18,578.78 is as a result of an overpayment on a loan in the past. And we just discovered that in the last month that was there. So we're holding that and we're trying to explore where that money came from to see if it's, quite frankly, clean or dirty. I'm just going to put it that way. I'm not going to touch it until we know where it came from.
Does the United checking account balance include that two separate little accounts, the $700 and the $4,100, something like that?
I believe so.
Include that. You can show.
So we have approximately $2 million in cash today. Just under that, just a little close. And that's how much money is now with the county treasurer.
Well, we're going to transfer those monies over to the county. We were waiting for the checks to arrive because we still have bills we need to pay, any given week. Quality in, for instance, some of our utilities. So we've been working with the county on a transition to get to the point where we got the checks, and now we're at a point where we can move the monies over to the county and make the transition. There was a period there where we had to get the checking account set up, get it funded, and get the actual checks so that we can operate out of that account.
So we're still operating our own accounts today.
Yes, for the time being, in order to pay our bills, we're still working with Heather and the county to operate out of the old accounts again until the new accounts got funded and the checks arrived so we could start actually paying bills out of that account.
So there is a date, entire point in time in which we'll completely transition out, and the county will be doing essentially all of this.
It should be in the next few days. As soon as we verify that we have our checks in and that we're able to operate from the new account, we'll make the switch and go forward from there.
So we're looking at by the end of next week.
I would say so, yes.
Before August 1st.
So that we're I mean, it doesn't look like there'd be much of a holdup, so August 1 ought to be a good date.
As soon as we know the checks are in, we can make the transfer and go from there. And we've worked out with the county a process for accounts receivable and accounts payable so that there's accountability, and yet we will still have a record of where we're at just in QuickBooks. That the county will have complete control over paying bills and making deposits.
So at some point then the county will be providing financial information, financial statements.
I believe so, yes, absolutely.
So next month's meeting, we could get the financial report for July 31 from here. But September's meeting, we can get the August 31 on the regular format that the county uses for all its departments. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Should be able to.
I believe so. And the county may be able to do a report for this month, as long as we give them the information. And of course, we have all the information.
But they don't have any of it in their books. What I'm hearing is that we're paying these bills right now ourselves.
Right, but we can still give the county record of what we're doing.
We can give them a record.
Transition month, and then they can give us a report, or we can provide a report ourselves. It's all very straightforward. There's deposits coming in and checks going out.
So we should be able to then, in the August meeting, if everything transfers, you could have a balance sheet, you could have all of your standard reporting if the information gets to the county, because they should be able to transfer that into their books.
Right.
And set it up.
I believe
I
so.
mean, I would think that would be relatively straightforward.
Yeah, there shouldn't be that many transactions.
I was gonna say, it's no different than,
The thing about the balance sheet, you're carrying forward balances from past fiscal years, and a lot of the values represented on that balance sheet are in question, to say the least.
That's the bad part,
So
So until we get those things straightened out, you know, we can certainly do an income and expense statement at the current day. You know, we understand that. But when you're reliant on a trial balance coming forward from a previous fiscal year, and then trying to determine a balance sheet off that.
But we're starting everything as of July 1. So these reports that we're talking about will come July 1. There's nothing prior that we need to address until the audit is done and so forth.
Right.
This will tell us everything that's come in and gone out as of July 1 compared to the budget.
Right, yeah, I mean, you know, again, we'll have our own set of records, but working with the county, we can give the county what we've done. We have a perfect accounting of what we've done income and expense wise, you know, for the last several months, you know, especially since Heather from Hottle and Willis has been here and John Anzavino put a new system in place with the checks and balances and the reporting. We have QuickBooks, so I'm confident that we can accurately represent what we've done over the last few months with our financials.
So that August, we can see how this $2 million number has changed.
Absolutely.
Any further questions or comments on financials? We'll move to county administrator update, Doug.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, welcome to new board members. I've got a copy of my reports coming around. First, Development Review Committee met on July 24th. The committee discussed projects in the county, including the Marriott Hotel. They received their temporary occupancy permit, and I believe they're trying to open it in August. Taco Bell Riverton Commons Shopping Center construction has begun of the building, the actual pad of the buildings down. Blue Ridge Shadow subdivision, they're working with them on outstanding items for completion, including acceptance of the roads into the state highway system. And Crooked Run West, the applicant's working on a revised traffic impact analysis statement so they can get that to VDOT. Committee also discussed projects in town, including a proposed Sheetz convenience store and gas station. They're working on a site plan. They'll submit that to the town here in the next few months. Proposed Harbor Freight and Gateway Plaza. That's in the discussion phase. Update on construction of new hospital. Construction has begun on the foundation. Steel's going up. We're still finalizing plan review for the rest of the hospital. Update on Leech Run Parkway completion. I know Doug's been working with the contractor and DEQ trying to close out the remaining items on that project. And there's a proposed brew pub on Water Street, and the applicant's working on plans for that. Committee will meet again on August 28th of 2019. Building inspections year to date, we've had a total of 67 new home starts, so that number 12 were in town limits, remaining 55 outside of town limits. This comparison in 2018, for the year we had 157 new home starts and 86 through June 30. Based on our projected total of 134 new starts, we represent an annual growth rate in housing stock of 0.77%. As projected, 2019 will be the second year in a row of a decrease in new home starts. For FY 18-19, the total number of permits was down from 2274 to 2121, and the total number of inspections was down from 11,550 to 10,993. Tourism Committee contractor presented preliminary wayfinding sign droppings to the community in early July. The next month they'll refine the options and present revisions back to the subcommittee. The full tourism committee will meet again on August 14. Rivermont Fire Station, HW Construction is making significant progress on the project. Anticipates starting to pour footers for the building in August and project to take about 450 days for completion, which would have it completed in the fall of 2020. Convenience site paving asphalt, 345-22 Cooley and Route 340 South, Rockledge. Convenience sites has been resealed and restriped, and the Linden site was repaved and striped in June. A couple others, Rocky Lane, Rural Addition project, that was completed. That's the section between Rockland Road and Milldale Road that was completed and it's been hard surfaced. Ashby Station complete. Oregon Hollow, that's where we're paving the northernmost portion of that road. Expect that to be completed in September. And then the county, we're working on Tomahawk Way, which is up on top of Blue Mountain, paving the phase 2 of that project. That should be completed in September as well. Again, no other new commercial projects underway at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So just the Crooked Run West project, does that include the bridge?
Yes. Okay. I think a big part of that is the scoping, trying to figure out how many lanes, how wide the bridge is, how many lanes for the entire road length, and then also where it's tied in both 345, 22, and back over in our Hollow Run. Thank you.
Mr. Stanley, as it relates to the new home starts, you had 67 total, 55 outside of the town. Do you have a scatter plot, or do you know roughly where they are, so the impact is on the
Shindo Farms is probably the bulk of the county.
Okay.
The rest of them are scattered around.
Okay.
Yeah, we do track that geospatially, and so we've, this last couple of years, but Shindo Farms, I would say probably 25 or 30 of those home starts for the county, in northeastern part of the county.
Okay.
What would you attribute the significant reduction in, or to, you said?
Supply and demand availability. There's not a whole lot of availability right now, which is, I think,
Availability of land?
Lots. Finished lots. There are some, I believe, coming on, Felicia, in town, about 30 or 40 that Mr. Ramsey's working on. I'm sure those will probably go pretty quick.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah, they'll go pretty quickly once they're there, I imagine. Curb and gutter water sewer lots are few and far between right now. That's certainly on the downside.
So is the county doing anything about that, or?
Yeah, really, that's, I say private sector from the standpoint of, we do have the approved run proposal, but there's not a whole lot out there as far as new proposals for land development. And we really kind of haven't identified any future. Most of the land that's been identified for future residential lies within the town limits, including the urban development area, which has been defined between Route 55 up to 66 along the hospital corridor out there. So I just sit and wait, I think, at this point. You certainly talk to, people call in and talk and ask questions, but at this point, there's nothing moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Jay Walsh is unable to attend. Did he send his report? Did we get?
I'm gonna, some of them are,
Can I ask Mrs. Stanley a question since Joe didn't here?
Sure.
What is the status? There was a holdup on getting permit for the pumping station. Is that still the case? And if so, why is there a holdup? I know we're in emergency about it, but
You're saying pumping station here at West Main, and actually, I don't know the answer to that. Alicia?
I do not. I didn't. Joe and I didn't have that discussion yesterday, so I can't answer that question.
Suggestion, while we're looking at this, maybe in the future we could have enough copies of these 3 reports for the media and our people from the town and the county that come to our meetings.
I don't see why not. Well, we don't have anyone to give this report. That we want to just briefly read over. Nobody here to answer questions, so.
Comment, sir?
Sure.
Move the sod downtown that they're working on, looks really cool.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm right here.
There you go. That new facade looks really cool. See the construction going on.
Yes.
I had several people comment on it to me.
Yeah, we've had 16, part of that grant was, there were 16, so, and we sit on the committee, so you heard what's
See
going
what I'm
on.
doing.
Yep, yeah.
The only question I have is the IT federal site. What's going on over there? Doug, anything? I mean, are you getting any contact from anybody about whether it's going to be rented, who's going to occupy it? Is it close to being finished? We don't have any information on that.
I haven't had any direct contact with Fortran or IT Federal. I think basically because we're in litigation with them, I don't know if Dan has had any contact with them or if they made any mention as to what's going on over there. I've heard nothing.
I don't have any update on that.
Can we find out?
Sure. I can talk to his legal counsel and say that since he's represented now, I can communicate through our counsel to his counsel to see where things are.
I'd be glad to help market the building if that's what he wants. There's folks that are interested in space that size.
Is that a core and shell, or is that a tent fit out? Do you know what I mean?
I think they did.
Right, I don't know if they dressed out the inside into a particular floor plate or not. I just don't know.
It could be a potential drawback, unfortunately, because if you have a tent, they'd have to tear out and do what they want to do with it, so.
Any further comments or questions concerning the town manager's report? We will move on to the executive director report. Go far.
First, I want to welcome our newest board member, Marjorie or Jorie Martin. We look forward to working with you, and I know your experience in real estate and finance will be a great asset for our organization. Under financial management, on the audit, we're continuing to make progress with Hoddle and Willis, Carolyn Stimmel, and Yeltide and Barber. We've had a conference call with them, and we've identified the work that needs to be done and who's going to tackle each of the three main issues that need to be tackled for an audit to be complete. We've also been in touch with the USDA, the folks that run the US.
Excuse me, is the audit still holding the county's audit?
Correct. As a component unit of the county's audit, we cannot complete our audit from FY18.
Do they have any estimate on when they think they can get it completed?
We don't know. The information that we received from Cherry Becker didn't provide everything that was needed. So there's proposed adjusted journal entries on the asset, debt, and capital side of the balance sheet. Cherry Becker provided the proposed adjusted journal entries for the assets, but not the debt or the capital. So Carolyn Stimmel is working on those things. And that's going to take some time, again, because we have to untangle a lot of our debt in order to accurately represent it, because everything was jumbled together as it relates to draws on projects. The other aspect of it is the USDA loans, and I think Hoddle and Willis and Yeltide and Barber feel that they can work to accurately represent those. So that's the work that needs to be done in order to move the audit forward. I'm hopeful that we can get something within 60 to 90 days, something in that time period, maybe sooner.
And that puts the county's audit 9 months in arrears, if I'm counting right, approximately.
What kind of impact is that on the county?
I mean, ultimately, could it affect our bond rating? That's a question. Ultimately, have to be asked. We get asked all the time, by the rating agencies and stuff, and copies. We missed our deadline with the Auditor of Public Accounts for the state of Virginia. We're not the only locality in default, because Ed knows there are others typically that are on the list. So, sooner the better. It'd be nice if we could get it wrapped up in 30 to 60 days. So keep our fingers crossed.
There's a list of the EPA man down there at the state, and there's a list of the good guys that have all their audits done and so forth. And there's about approximately 150 names on there. And then there's the bad guys that still don't have their audits in. There's about 10 there. So we don't like to be on this list. I think we ought to try to get a timeline from each of these big components when they can do it. I think if we're going to move on, we're done with Cherry Becker, and we're going to move on. Let's figure out when we can do it.
Does it impact, can we issue a qualifier? And to move your audit forward?
That's a question for your auditors.
Okay, but if we have a qualified, if we can issue a qualified opinion based on what's going on to move the county audit forward, it would certainly facilitate everyone, if that's possible. So it may be a question we want to ask.
We have a conference call with them this afternoon, or they might actually be coming here this afternoon. Feel number?
Yeah, it's here, it's out there.
So we can talk to them about that option to try to hasten the.
And maybe if we can't have it by X date, then we execute that option.
Yeah, because it would just make sense, because that way it'll get us off the 10 people bad list, and at least for the county, which certainly gives us a,
Okay, do we have enough information to know what to approve?
yeah.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, so,
And my understanding is it's gonna be an unqualified opinion when they do it. Or a qualified opinion, rather, excuse me. When they issue it, it's gonna be qualified.
Well, then, you know, it may not make any, yeah, I was gonna say, it may not make any.
We gotta get something.
I mean, Young and Barber hadn't definitively said that, so I don't want to make that statement until Young and Barber says that. That's only definitely be qualified. If Carolyn can provide the necessary adjustments, perhaps, yeah. We'll have to wait till we get all these adjustments from Carolyn, so.
Another aspect of the audit is providing fair market valuations for GASB for our assets. And that's something that, and Barber feels that they can tackle too. So that's what we're working on.
Because they're gonna be getting into they're starting their next audit season. They're starting on the 19 audits now.
As far as I'm concerned, we can just do the 18 and then straight through to the 19 to try to get that done. Because we're already a year behind on that.
so I hate to bring up bad news, but Mr. Stanley, at what point does the county have to recognize a debt as potentially being a bad debt and or uncollectible?
We haven't reached that point yet. And of course, is the debt the town's debt? Is the debt the EDA's debt? Is the debt the county's? What portion of that? So that's all going to be parceled out, I think. But, there's certainly a lot of potential there. But, I think still unanswered at this point in time.
Okay.
Brian, Doug?
Okay, so regarding USDA loans, we reached out to BJ Fulcher and Joe Boatwright with the USDA regarding the status of our loan programs. And we had a good conversation with them on the phone. The 4 IRP loans are actually in pretty good shape, and they said that we would be at liberty to make further loans from that fund once we file a UCC form, which we've done. We're certainly not quite ready yet or comfortable with making more loans, but they did give us the go-ahead on that. On the micro loans, we're going to meet with them in the coming weeks to do, they want to do a civil rights compliance of our microloan portfolio and a financial review. So that program will be on hold as far as making any new loans from there. Gretchen's worked very hard to help us try to collect some of our delinquent accounts. And I want to thank Jennifer Woody and Dan's office who has helped us with warrants and debt. Over the last month, since our last board meeting, we've taken action against 6 additional delinquent accounts. And of those 6, 4 are in legal collections with Dan's office, and we've begun due process with 2 more. 4 to 6 have responded and pledged to get caught up with their obligations. We had 1 delinquent account come in yesterday and give us a check for $2,500. So we are making progress in getting things caught up there. Fiscal agency, we've spoken about that, but we did meet with the county's finance professionals. They've set up accounts, and those accounts have been funded with the deposits from the month of July. We've established a system by which the receivables and the payables will be managed. And again, as soon as we know we got the checks, we can put all the money over into the new account and start paying from there.
Question for you, Doug, is a civil rights compliance report, is that to make sure that the loans are being distributed equitably to disadvantaged members of the community, or?
I believe so, yeah. I think they just want to see, who the loans have been made to, obviously in the past.
Do we have that data?
I don't know that we do, no.
Okay. All right.
1325 Progress Drive roofing. We're moving forward with the RFP for roof work at Visionary Optics at 1325. It's a building we own. The roof leaks. They're an advanced manufacturer. They have a lot of very expensive equipment in there. That equipment gets wet. Obviously, that's not good for them. Probably not good for us. We are obligated by the lease. The roof is our responsibility, not the tenants on this lease for that building.
Doug, when will we do an IFP instead of RFP? When we do an IFP, invitation for bids, roof rather than a request for proposals?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to
We've been talking about this leaking roof here for 6 months now. I commend you for getting this going.
Thank you. We got, we're using an architect to make sure we have objective bid specs, and that we're proposing, or that we're speccing out the right roof for that building, and looking at what would be most cost effective way to handle that.
You mentioned that the roof is leaking. Is there mitigation in place right now to minimize that? Or?
I believe so. It's not terribly bad. I mean, it's not at a critical point, but obviously it's only going to get worse instead of better.
I know that we've just we're in the middle of thunderstorm season, and last thing we need is a derecho to come in and damage someone's optical equipment. They have an insurance claim, for lost revenue.
Absolutely.
Equipment damage.
That's why we're working to get her done.
Okay.
Absolutely. The East Main Street Apartments, we continue to work with Progressive Insurance for the claim from the accident of June 12th. They've asked for a second opinion on the engineer's assessment, and they've asked for the contractor to update their quote with more itemization. The second engineer's assessment firm is Crawford and Company that Progressive had to come down from Maryland. We also had a contractor come back. That was not this last Tuesday, but 2 Tuesdays ago. They went inside the building. They updated the quote. The quote from the contractor's been sent to Progressive. And I think Progressive is still waiting on the second assessment from Crawford and Company. I was hoping by this board meeting that they would have gotten back to me as to whether or not they're going to approve the contractor's quote. So we're waiting on that. For the time being, the tenants, we've been housing them at the Quality Inn. And we're going to have to talk about, what the future holds there as far as getting the building repairs made and getting the tenants back in as quickly as possible. Contractor did say that it will take 20 days to do the work once we turn them loose. So we're doing everything we can to get this through the insurance and be able to get the work done.
So have they given you any estimates as to when they make the final judgment or whatever it is they need to do?
The last email that I had from the claims agent, Gretchen Majatovich, was that we should have had it by now. I sent her an email last night saying we're having a board meeting this morning. We'd really like to know whether or not you're going to accept the quote so we can go forward. As of right now, I haven't heard back from her yet.
It seems like this has been going on too long. I'd really like to make that a priority to put that issue to bed. I know that you're doing everything you can, and if you need backup on this one or whatever.
Okay.
You need a bad guy on there.
No. So a little extra history there. We started off with a claims agent named Kyra Swan.
Yeah.
And everything progressed very smoothly. She accepted Dan Hotek's original engineer's assessment and the contractor's quote.
Yeah.
And she actually verbally told me to go ahead and start the work. And then right after that, that's when the claim was moved to Gretchen Majatovich. And she had a very different view on it.
Well, that sounds like a progressive problem.
Right.
Not an EDA problem.
But we're still on track to sell both of those buildings.
Sure, absolutely.
I think, Ray, we need to make a decision on whether to repair it and also what we do with the tenants, because the Progressive is no longer paying to keep them in. As a matter of fact, we paid for the last week, Doug said.
Yeah, they switched their philosophy. Kyra Swan told me they would reimburse us for the Quality Inn stay until the work is done.
I think Gretchen Mayatovich said that they will only pay for 30 days worth of tenant reimbursements. So last week and anything forward is on us.
What does the policy say? Yeah.
I know, the extension is on them, they're the ones holding it
They're
up.
delayed. I mean, it's,
I mean, we could go after them, legally, and then you may have some grounds, but the question is, how much money are we gonna spend going after what the cost is outside of the 30 days to house the tenants? And it's $1,129 a week is what the cost is at the Quality Inn. So, and let's say we've got 4 weeks or 5 weeks of that expense, are we gonna spend the money to go after Progressive to get that back?
But to go back to Dr. Patterson's point, I think we need an assessment of this building of if the improvements are made that we're talking about with Progressive.
Mm-hmm.
If those improvements are made, what else needs to be done in that building to make it actual? And I know the building is grandfathered, but what else needs to be done? I think we need an engineer to look at the building.
Well, we've got that, right?
Well, we have the assessment from Dan Hotep that addresses the damage that was done when the guy's brakes failed and the truck went into the building. I've spoken with Jeremy Camp and David Bean, and both of them said that if the repairs are made, and as long as they restore the exterior to the original condition, then whatever, as long as nothing, like let's say somebody buys the apartment building and operates it as is, they're not going to go in and say you can't operate this as an apartment. Now, if they go to make improvements or additions to the building, that's when the code kicks in and they would have to then meet code. That's my understanding from Jeremy and David.
But that's up to the new owners.
That'd be up to the new owners.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But the owners, my point is that the owners may, prospective owners, purchaser, may see the improvements that need to be done that are not required, not mandated, it is grandfathered. But that these improvements still need to be done if you're going to market the facility.
That's going
because
I don't think we need to go to another level on that. I what everybody else thinks. I think we do the repairs that allow the tenants to go back in. They want to go back in, they like living there. And we don't want to kick them out and have welfare find them another place. They want to go back there, and that's where it should be. Anybody have other opinions on that?
I think we're doing them a disservice. I think we ought to find out and show them what else is available.
Who's that?
The tenants. And they're not, besides again, they are not our tenants. They are paying their lease, their rent to somebody else.
So we have a direct lease with Danny Hill from the EDA to him.
Okay.
The other two don't have a lease because they've been there for 14 and 20 years respectively.
Okay.
I've met these gentlemen, or I've met two of them. I've talked to them. They came over when the engineer and the contractor came back for the second time. They want back in there. They consider that place their home. It's just that simple. They are dying to get back in there.
And they like it pretty much as is.
As far as whatever repairs are made, that's going to be up to the new owner and whatever code requirements will kick in.
We're mixing multiple issues here. There is the issue of getting the building repaired so that the tenants can move back in based on the accident. The second set of issues or circumstances is what needs to be done to sell the building. And then the third set is that there might be additional improvements that we could or should be required to perform as the owner of the building. I have no idea what those are.
well, I think at a minimum, and I believe this is up for discussion later on, at a minimum, the building needs to be structurally repaired.
Absolutely.
But to sell the building, we're not talking about selling a single family, we're talking about selling an income producing property, which falls under a different standard.
Potentially.
I would like to move that we delay this item until after our closed session, come back to it.
That's fine, sure. This is just
That'd
Doug's
be
report,
included.
so we can move on.
We'll come back.
So the next item, we received a free overview of the solar panel power system that we have on the roof of this building. I won't go through the whole thing with you. You can take a look at it. But generally speaking, you know, we paid about not we, but the EDA paid about $400,000 for the system. It was not approved by the board. It is producing around $14,000 of energy per year based on the assessment that was done. A high turnkey price for this system installed within the last 18 months would have been no more than $250,000. So we took a look at what the different options would be with this system, understanding that it was put up there illegally. Right now, there's metering in place for each half of the building. They never got separate metering for each unit, so there's no way to determine how much power or what should be charged to each individual unit from the solar. So since we got here, we have not been charging our tenants electricity for the solar because we have no way of measuring it. It
Would
was
you do by
estimated.
square footage? You know, which is sometimes what they do in units and things that I manage. But if you don't have an individual, if you don't have an individual meter, you can take that whole bill on square footage and bill them that way. At least it might be an option.
It could be. I just felt it was more fair to have an accurate number, you know, because there were estimates done before by our predecessors, and to be perfectly honest, it was really hard to follow the logic and how they estimated what the tenants should be paying in electric. So we don't want to do things that way. If we can't accurately estimate the electric, then we just didn't feel it was ethical to try to.
But the tenants will give us, the town electric company can give us an estimate of what these buildings should be utilizing.
And you know, if you do it on square footage, it truly is equitable because you're looking at square footage. You know, you can't dispute what it is. You take that bill, divide it out, by percentage.
Assuming everybody uses it.
Mr. Chairman,
And that may be, yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but is this not part of the litigation that's currently ongoing? And
It is.
Should we be discussing this in this level of detail?
Since Earthquake Energy is one of the defendants in the lawsuit, it probably would be better if it's fine, this is part of the report, but I don't think we should discuss it too much in detail. This is a third-party report that he issued to us. You're welcome to read it over and ask any questions, but it probably would be better if we not discuss it in too much detail.
But we can discuss leasing terms in our
Sure, you can discuss that.
Yeah, as it relates to the power consumption.
You're fine discussing the leasing and the potential for,
The operational
costs.
side of it, I think, is appropriate to discuss, but we're venturing into other.
All right, let's move on.
Can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
What is the possibility of getting the town to allow net billing so it can sell the stuff back to the town, which is free?
Right, so the solar panel system is feeding electric back into the town grid. We have had the town out. David Jenkins came out and looked at it. He shut off the electric to the building one morning before operating hours, and he did determine that indeed there's electric feeding back in. It's my understanding that the town does not offer net metering for solar systems that feed energy back into the grid, so that would be up to the town.
Can you explore that?
We can explore it, sure. Any other questions? Okay, prospects, we can discuss the activity level of each prospect in closed session, but we continue to have robust interest in all of our properties, especially 404 Fairground and Ball Drive building. We've had some interest in the Stokes Market. We can discuss that in closed session. The VEDP site characterization project, we submitted all the requested data for our sites in Front Royal and Warren County. I want to thank the utility department at the town. They've been very cooperative in helping us with the water and the sewer and the electric and understanding what the capacities are at the different sites that we've been asked to provide data for. So at this point, we're waiting on the state to rank all of our sites by a tier level, which would determine the competitiveness of our sites with others around the state. So that work will continue. Business retention, over the last month, I met with Roanoke Cement, Dominion Energy, and Interbake at their facilities and gotten to become familiar with their operations there. Roanoke Cement is doing well. They were proud that they've been 19 years without a lost time accident, and they're certified through the Department of Labor and Safety and Health and Achievement Recognition Program, and they're also certified through the Wildlife Habitat Council for their environmental stewardship at the site. Dominion Energy, I got a tour of that facility. I'm sure most of you probably know they have 3 natural gas powered turbines, steam powered turbine. They mentioned that the facility produces power more efficiently and with less pollution than a coal powered facility. And it is a very clean, efficient operation out there. And they're on 40 acres, and they made an interesting note. You wonder about solar and compared to traditional power. So they're on 40 acres, and they said it would take 1,600 acres of solar panels to produce the same amount of electricity, just to give you an idea on an acre per acre. So Interbake is doing well. They're holding steady with their employment. You probably know they make a variety of food products, the wafers for ice cream sandwiches, the Klondike bars.
Did you get any samples when you were there?
They did not get me. They didn't.
Swallow those people.
I met with Lee Cranford, the manager of Virginia and Port, and Laura Smith from the Port of Virginia, and got a tour of their facility. And Laura has pledged to work with us in cooperative marketing efforts for the land and building around the port. Had an industry roundtable meeting on July 11th at the port. Valley Health gave a great presentation on the new hospital and the progress there. Among the attendees were AG Laser, AirServe, Exalta, Interchange, and representatives from the EDA and the county government. Front Royal Police Department and Leech Run Parkway, as I mentioned before, Carolyn is working with BJ Wilson at the town to nail down the principle and the interest that was truly a part of the construction of the police department, sorting out the expenses that were not. And I think they're making pretty good progress there. Each of the parties involved with the Leech Run project, I asked them to submit a written report about what their position is. There's been a round robin of disagreement between Panoni Engineer and Grant Civil as to the remaining punch list items that need to be completed to close out Leech Run. A lot of it has to do with getting grass to grow in certain areas for soil stabilization. And then there's some areas where there's discharge from the stormwater drainage and it's eroded out the ground there. So what we've done is we've gotten a statement from each. I've talked to John McCormick at the DEQ, and he suggested I work with Panoni to consider some adjustments to the stormwater plan, which is part of what they're responsible for, and see if we can put riprap or stone or fabric or something more durable in those areas where there continues to be erosion as they try to get sod started. So they're planting grass seed. The grass isn't growing very well. Branch Civil says the soil is too acidic. Panoni says it's up to them to treat the soil and get the grass to grow. So,
Plus it's in the middle of the summertime, so nothing grows except for weeds right now.
Right.
Unless it's irrigated.
So Branch Civil has submitted a proposal for them to get out of the project with a dollar amount that they would be comfortable with in exiting the project and allowing somebody else to come in under Panoni to complete the work. We're going to do that with Panoni and DEQ and try to move forward, but we need to get this thing closed out so we can get the financial part of the project closed out.
They wanted to walk down the streets. walking every day, they could go down and look at the hospital site, which has all their erosion under control. And I don't see the much steeper hills there, and it's very much under control, but you come down there and look.
So, strategic planning with the town and county, we've drafted a letter from the county and the town to initiate a strategic planning process for them. And, can you hand those out? So as we've mentioned in the past, we want to update our strategic plan, and obviously we want to work with the town and county very closely on that. So this is just a draft of a letter that I've been working with Ed on to propose to the county and town to see if we can all work together and have a mutually acceptable direction for the EDA going forward.
Are you looking for public comments at this point in time, or is this just to review right now?
I was going to make a motion to the chairman to adopt this so then we could begin the discussion. To have something that Mr. Parsons, and I would have it signed by the chairman. I believe the chairman should sign this letter.
But is this the final draft or?
Well, this is what I'm trying to do, is to make a motion to have it adopted with that provision, so then we can make other amendments to it. So that's my motion, is to begin
I would
to do
Make a
that.
motion to accept this letter, and then there'll be a second, and then discussion.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
so now we can start
Okay, you
discussion.
have a motion and a second.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion to
No.
accept?
Now we've got discussion, because we've got some amendments, some corrections. So now, this is just to get it on the floor.
Okay.
I have a few suggestions on it. First line, we talked about the things that we're going to do. Seems to me we want to include something like improving our procedures, something along those lines. We could always address that issue. Down in 3 of the things that we would work on with around Warren County would be to, I would suggest adding coordinating with town and county departments to communicate a unified.
Right, because they have a committee, they have a tourism committee.
Right.
And I don't need to, we don't really need to duplicate that.
No,
I would
work with them.
Yeah.
Just to work and make sure that we're all on the same page. Those are the major ones. I have very minor word changes.
Doug, you can put out my email from last night. Did you with my comment on there?
print out your email.
Yeah, you can see my email from last night regarding this draft letter.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly.
That's okay. I'm going to pull it up here, so if everybody will bear with me. It almost mirrors what you said. Delay for everything else.
Well, and I would also submit that we're really just seeing this for the first time, so I don't know if we can adopt it today.
Well, the reason for adopting it today is to begin the discussion with the town and the county.
As a draft.
As a draft.
As a draft.
This is where we are. This is not our strategic plan. This is our short term. This is what we're working on now. These are our.
So I think what I could say then is I agree with it in principle, but in terms of some of the finer points and the details that are being discussed, I think we need an opportunity to work through some of that.
Okay.
But in terms of the concept, in terms of the overall content, I think it's excellent.
I think, I agree, and I think that this is something that, should be shared with the public, which hopefully they will do. But also, I think to show there should be something in there that we continue to provide bond and those kind of services. Yeah. I mean, to say
To be a bond.
to be a bond, yeah, I think we should say that as well for completeness.
Okay.
Yeah, that can be a bullet over here. That's a good one.
So, I found my comments here. I like the fact that it's only 5 points and it's not overburdening to another government body to look at. I want to tag team on what Jeff had said and basically say that I think we really, at a minimum, need to put a plan there that we need to evaluate and further develop our means and methods of internal governance, which basically really encompasses everything that we do in this organization without getting into the weeds.
More specifically, it's the bylaws, basically.
Exactly.
Something,
And just
something in
restating
there about internal.
Yeah, restating that for the public and the board, because that's one of the reasons why we are faced with the circumstances that we're faced with right now, so.
And you might be the best one to write that sentence, that bullet.
I have it right there.
Okay, so if you give him, or give some correction to bullet, we can add it.
Could you read it? So all know what it says?
I'm sorry?
She was asking to read it.
I mean, if you could
Absolutely.
read, yeah, I mean, just so we know what it says.
Yeah, it is really as fiduciaries of the community, you know, evaluating and further developing our means and methods of internal governance. Just a one statement.
That's good.
Are we gonna try to get this draft and then send it out today?
I'm hoping we can,
Well, that's something.
we've asked before for direction, and if we can't give direction, all right, we'll give them a straw man. So they can give us something to comment on. We're asking for comments from them on what it is. Yeah,
I would hate to wait about a month.
yeah, that's my concern, is Chairman's trying to schedule this meeting with the council and the board, and we're gonna have our meeting to go and practice before that, but in the interim with all the discussion that seems to go, instead of talking to us, it's about us, that we need to get something out there to say, okay, if this isn't what you want us doing, tell us what it is.
And I see this as being a working document,
That's
up
what
to
it's meant to
and
be.
including that meeting, so.
And that's right, this would change.
Yeah, a new product will come out.
There'll be a new one when we have our meeting and so forth. This is a start though.
I think that's important, because I don't think we can vote to approve this today as a final document.
No, it's not a final, it's just something to start to set, so we get something out to. So that would be the intent, that this is an interim, if you will.
This is the framework.
Yeah.
So we're looking today to be clear, being the new 10 of the block, of going ahead and sending them a draft of this, so that we are not doing the final. I just want to make sure it's clear. Okay.
This is what we're doing right now,
Okay.
and then change, we have the right to change it at any time, as they will send us comments back.
When you have your retreat also, y'all can discuss that in more detail.
We're going to advance, we are not retreating.
When you have your work session powwow, y'all can discuss it in more detail.
Okay, so we need people that have offered changes or additions to this, need to work with Doug to get a final to send out today, right?
Yes.
We know several things.
changes and I'll plug them in.
You'll have to write the one with Patterson on the IDA Board of Directors and put that in there. Greg's got his and Jeffrey has his.
Okay. All right.
We need to approve this, right?
Yes. As a,
So it would be just approving it with the suggested changes.
yes.
Are we able to send out the final before,
Yes.
then if anyone has an objection, is it all right if they object by email or by email?
Well, if you check by email, if I'm not mistaken,
It becomes public, that's right.
well, it becomes public, but the big thing is then it cannot go forward, because you have to have a,
Well, this doesn't require a formal motion
Okay.
to send
we
this
have-
letter.
Okay.
So if you want to send out a final draft by email and you'll have additional comments,
Okay.
that's fine. You can send emails out and it's not a meeting. I'm under FOIA.
Can we then send the letter out?
This doesn't require a formal motion for you to
Well, we
send out
have a
this letter.
formal motion on the table right now.
So you could have a motion stating it's contingent on final comments
Okay.
via email. before it's sent, before the director sends it out.
Okay.
And I would make that amendment
Make
to
that
my
amendment
motion.
to your motion.
And then it is approved, is signed by the chairman.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. We are moving to old business, motion to update EDA bylaws and administrative personnel. Quite a long document.
So we're not updating the bylaws, that was a mistake, we're just updating the personnel statement. The bylaws are not part of the personnel statement is not part of the bylaws. So this is just an update, the last revision was in 2000. So John Enzvino, interim EDA director, worked on this, my assistant Caitlin Jordan worked on it, and then I worked on it. So this is kind of the final product. But we welcome any input, and if you want to, since you just received it yesterday, if you want to have more time to look it over, and if you want to adopt it at the next meeting, we can do that as well, because I know it's a long document.
When I've received these on other boards, where there are changes or it was highlighted.
Yeah, I gave Gretchen the red line document, but this is what she printed as the final version, but she can give you a copy of the red line version.
That would be really
That would be
most helpful.
Yeah.
To get this in red line.
Question, does this earmark the county, does this follow the county's?
It does.
So.
It's not as in-depth as the county's is probably 100 pages, but we tried to
This
highlight
is all in sync with the
a
county.
lot of the important points that are in the county.
Then I have two other suggestions, Mr. Chairman.
Concerning this?
Yes.
Okay.
Under Article 6, the holiday leave, traditionally, the counties follow the state policy, and the governor has days off rather than holidays, and I thought that should be noted. That we would follow
We do follow the state schedule.
rather than the federal schedule.
That's correct. So
So
I
we
can
could delete federal and just put the state schedule and,
It's sometimes like this year, July 4th fell on a Thursday, so the governor said July 5th would be a holiday, and we were off. July 5th, we'll have a day off. So I can state that it only follows the state schedule.
and on the next page, at the top there, under the accruals of leave, does the second column need to say maximum days accrual at the top?
Sure. And that follows this, the county's accrual schedule.
Dan, I had a couple of questions on this. If I can address Mr. Chairman. 2.3 probationary period. It's got the second or third statement down. It says probationary employees shall be evaluated periodically and may be removed at any time during the probationary period. I'm just wondering by whom and if that actually follows the county review process.
So basically, an employee would be removed, as an employee would be removed by the executive director, because the executive director, they have a separate contract that has provisions in there for termination where they would get severance pay and such. So I can make this more clear that this deals more with employees and not the executive director.
Okay. And then 3.3 role of executive director. Second paragraph, I guess it leads over on the next page, second paragraph. That whole paragraph appears to be a unilateral decision on pay raises for EDA employees. I find that to be a little bit...
It's a decision of the EDA board if they want to do pay raises. You don't follow the county policy, like if the county gets a cost of living increase.
It doesn't say that. It says the executive director shall utilize his or her discretion in making specific decisions with regard to individual salary or benefit adjustments.
Well, that would still have to be approved by the board.
It doesn't say that. I agree with you.
Okay, but I can make that more clear after approval by the board.
It says we approve the budget, and then it's up to the director. I don't think that everybody's deserving. I just think there needs to be checks and balances on that.
Sure, makes sense.
See, yeah, I'm reading that the two sentences there, to me, are a little bit redundant. You know, the sentence at the bottom of the first page there is, as part of the annual process, the executive director shall bring his recommendations to the board of directors. I think that should say for approval or something. And then that second sentence, the executive director shall use discretion in making specific. I think that's what the recommendation should be, so that second sentence can be deleted.
That's fine. It just needs to be cleaned up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I didn't catch that, thank you.
No problem. That's what I'm here for. All the way over 18.1 travel expenses. This is basically an open checkbook, and I think there needs to be an established amount for per diem and a cap for a hotel.
The county does not do that, but we can do that here if you would like.
If we need a motion or whatever it is, I think.
What would you suggest? How much?
My company gives me $36 a day for per diem. Whether that's an industry standard or an acceptable standard, I don't know. I've seen up to $45 a day.
Okay.
Generally, my hotel allowance is about $100, per stay. That gives me a business class hotel.
Okay. Now, what do you do, for instance, like I have conferences where the rooms are $150 a night, so does the employee pay the difference?
No, absolutely not. I mean, if it's at a conference area, that's fine.
Okay.
I just think there needs to be a little bit more guidance in here.
Okay, sure. I can do it.
I'm open to that. I think there just needs to be an understanding of what the expectation is as far as the dollar amounts are concerned.
Maybe a conference rate, a hotel, and a in-state per diem and an out-of-state per diem.
Possibly so.
In-state, maybe, you said 36, maybe 35 to 40, and out-of-state, 40 to 45.
I know it's $7 for breakfast, $11 for lunch, and $18 for dinner. That's what I typically say.
I can see if like the state has a policy, we'll see what the state's policy is.
There are some I've seen.
And maybe look at other counties. That's something we've discussed as a county we've never done.
I think the school system's 40. This is correct.
40 would work. I hate to get it too complicated. The state's got this list of where they take every community, and they will give you one rate in Richmond, another rate in Roanoke, etc. And I would rather just have a flat $40 and the conference rate for the hotel. My suggestion. Keep it simple.
Are we going to provide anything for if this policy is going to be durable? Are we going to do a living agreement that gets adjusted for,
absolutely.
Down the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say,
anytime.
Yeah.
right, but I mean, to keep that you revisit it every year is a little, it's a little stupid with all that we have to do.
No, clearly.
A lot of times they'll adjust like, every year or every couple of years according to CPIU.
Yeah, CPI or however you want to do it, at least you've got something in there.
So you could put a language in there every 3 years, every 5 years, whatever, and adjust according to CPIU.
Well, it's a matter of policy. We should define how often we review our policies anyway.
Exactly.
Annually or every 3 years or whatever.
Maybe when we adopt this, we put some provision in to review it in 2 years.
Sure. Makes sense.
Cool. And my last item, I'm sorry to take up so much time, is 26.1 conflict of interest. I just want to make sure that everybody has reviewed and fully understands and agrees with these, with this outline. And I want to make sure that it's really been vetted.
Sure. And I'm actually going to be doing a presentation later on FOIA and COIA.
Perfect.
So.
Okay. Those are all my comments.
Perfect.
Okay, anything else?
So I guess the plan is that I'll bring these edits to the next meeting. If you have any other edits, just email me and I can add them. And I'll have a red line version and I can email it to the board members in advance so you can see my edits, John's edits, Caitlin's edits.
And we can see if there's anything else that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Special session, retreat, whatever it is we would like to call it. Does anybody have a date that they would propose?
What is
We wanna do this
the window
in
of time
August.
we're trying to accomplish this in?
Hopefully within the next 6 to 8 weeks. And we would talk about sending out a list of Fridays and then letting everybody respond as to who was available to see if we could pick a Friday. And then we were trying to keep it on Friday just because that's the best day for everyone. If we could send that list out, that'd be able to get a date.
All right, so Doug, you'll do that? Send out a list of dates, August. See who's happy with it.
Did you want legal counsel present at the meeting?
Well, it depends upon what legal counsel's gonna do. You might get more done without legal counsel.
Well, there's not gonna be any closed session items.
Nope.
So there's not a necessity for legal counsel, but if you would like me to be there, Caitlin,
I would like to
yeah.
be here.
Whenever.
Just let me know. Okay.
Okay, motion to form a communications committee. I think we've talked about this via emails, and we think the person that is most qualified to head that committee would be Jeff Brown, with his background expertise. I will be happy to serve on that committee. I'm not real good at that kind of stuff. I'm a chemistry major, so it's a little bit different.
I have a question on this. As you have committees, and you're meeting outside of a regular session, we can have 2 people meeting at a time. Is that correct? And is there any exception for established committees or anything?
You just have to advertise it as a meeting. If you have more than 2 people, then it's a meeting under FOIA, so you just advertise it as a meeting. Just make sure you put your notice on the website and I'll post it here physically.
Okay.
And you can have that.
I probably I'll get something so I know what to do.
And I'll talk about that in my FOIA presentation to learn more about that.
So,
Does that mean
that would probably be you, me, and Doug
Yes, sir.
that would meet together.
That would be.
Now, we could have one more member, since we got to announce it anyway. If you want more input.
Well, 2 they don't need to.
So you don't have to announce 3, you do need to announce.
Okay.
It is a meeting.
Then it won't be 3 then, I guess.
So when there's a reason to bring a 3rd member in,
Then we have to do it.
and then you would have a meeting.
You would just call a special meeting and just
Yeah.
meet the requirements under our bylaws for calling a special meeting.
I mean, my philosophy is that I'm going to be asking all of you to do something, so I need your involvement, your input in it. But maybe in terms of the organizational structure and getting things done, it's better with a smaller group that we can work together.
Now, do we need a motion to appoint this committee?
Motion to appoint the members of the committee.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to form a communication committee consisting of Jeff Brown, Gray Blanton, and Doug Parsons. So, any discussion or questions concerning that?
Yeah, if I could lead this off, as I'm filling my shoes here in the first 30 days, I realized that there's really a need for a formalized or re-energized or reconstituted communications committee, primarily to make sure that we have a unified message that is getting out to the public, and to make sure that we do have a proactive position to deal with issues that arise through the organization, whether that's good news or bad news. And the communications committee is really best served to do that. I created a draft format that's in your packet. This is something that I've used in my professional life. I find it to be very useful. I'm not suggesting that this be used for the communications committee. This was simply Greg Harold's ideas and putting these on paper to help direct and memorialize, because I believe that these need to be memorialized in some fashion so we can go back and look at the record and make sure that we're all understanding as to why we're here, what we're doing, what our objectives and what our goals are, and if we're actually meeting those objectives and goals. So it's really up to the communications committee to determine how they want to operate, what their communications goals are, whether they're monthly board statements, whether they're press statements, whether they're Facebook updates, whatever the case may be. I realize that there's misinformation out in the public. It tends to go wild, and I think we need to take the opportunity when we can to correct that. Ideally, I would like to see the EDA Facebook page be the primary source of information that is coming out of the EDA and not other avenues. So that was really the genesis and the purpose of forming this committee. I think this is really going to help this organization move forward, correcting information, get the information out that we need to get out. Again, whether it's positive or negative, it needs to be delivered via an accurate source.
Good. Well, I'll make a commitment that we'll have as detailed a report as we can have for the next meeting. And in the meantime, communicate via email on any things that need to be put out before then.
Okay.
Do you mean a web page instead of a Facebook page? I don't believe the EDA has a Facebook page. We do have it? Okay.
Is there a secret code to get password to this? How do we get to the EDA password? Do we need to have it?
If that's the case, then we need to adopt a social media policy.
I was gonna say.
I didn't realize we had an
Could
EDA.
we put that on for next month?
Sure. I can use, I adopted one for or I proposed one for the county that they adopted. And so I can present our social media policy and we can put that.
Because we need that to be able to, and then we need the secret password code to look at Facebook.
Sure.
So it's a closed group.
No, I'm not suggesting that it's a closed group. It is right
But
now.
right now, what we're saying, there's a password. Is my understanding.
You have an administrator that monitors all the comments. Under the social media policy, you can only remove comments under certain guidelines.
I understand.
And so that's why you have an administrator who has that authority. So that most likely be Gretchen. And usually it's, before you remove a comment, you do it in consultation with legal counsel.
Sure.
That's how we do it at the county. We'll screenshot it before we remove it. And then you also have, retention periods of the Library of Virginia you have to deal with. So having a social media page can be complex.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the communication committee.
We have one.
Further comments or questions?
I would actually like to make an amendment to that motion, and maybe if this is not the right time for that, it's going to fall in a different way. I would like to motion, if appropriate, that we actually adopt a uniform document by which these committees are formed and guided and managed. Whether that's appropriate for here, don't know.
Let's hold that
throw
for
that
a minute. Because I think we've got a motion on the floor. Let's do that motion, and then when we talk about 12.2 here, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Is it open
That's
for
it.
discussion about whether we even have a Facebook page? I think that's also a discussion.
Well,
I
don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
I think Facebook, frankly, I deal with it in what I do for a living every day, and I can tell you now, all of our attorneys say, don't have one. You have an official, and that's what
You do have staff time. The county staff person handles Facebook. They do spend a lot of time going through, monitoring comments, coming to me if they want to delete a comment. Parks and Rec has a Facebook account, Fire and Rescue, Sheriff's Office, and the county, and it does take a lot of staff time monitoring Facebook accounts. It's
all I'm
something to
saying
consider.
is I think it is worth, maybe not here, and again, I'm the new kid on the block, but I do think that Facebook, as we all know, presents its problems, and I think it's a decision that this board needs to make on whether you actually want. There are other avenues to communicate.
so, suggestion? let's make that part of the discussion with the social media policy.
So we need to discuss
And make
next.
it an agenda item for next month, so
Okay.
we can decide something on it.
Sounds fine.
And I was just looking, I didn't realize we haven't posted since November of 18, so it's not like we're actively utilizing it. So we'll just refrain from any
It's there.
post or utilizing it until the next meeting.
We don't have administrative access anyway, so.
If we don't have administrative access, you would have to contact Facebook and somehow get it, so we'd have to work through that as well.
All right, still have a motion to approve a communication committee.
Call the question.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Any further director comments?
Number 12.2.
Get his approval.
Oh, yeah, 12-2, we were gonna do that before.
Oh, we were gonna do that.
End of old business, okay.
Communications committee. Vote on communication committee.
Now, a motion to activate, what did we just do?
We have the communications committee, we have a standing committee that is finance, and a standing committee that is loans. My motion is that these committees meet and be added to the monthly agenda to make a report at each meeting.
Okay.
And when they call their meeting, et cetera, is up to them, and the format. That there will be some type of a format created similar for each committee as to what they are doing. So that we have these committee reports and we can do our business in these committees.
Each subcommittee needs to have a charter, basically.
Like that, something like this, yes.
And do we have a list of what those committees are and
Great question.
who the membership is?
No.
Well, that's what I'm driving at. I know they're
Mark, you and I are
finance.
on one.
And which one are you on?
We were on the loan committee.
So two of you are the loan committee.
Yeah.
And your finance, is somebody on the committee with you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, I think it was.
Former member.
It was Bruce, I think.
Yeah, Bruce.
So you need another member on the committee. And then the executive director.
I'll be happy to do finance if you want. I mean, if I do it.
The executive director is a member of all committees. So that would be our motion that these committees meet monthly and report on the agenda. So there's a line item on the agenda for each committee, and that we create a format similar to this for each of those committees as to their purpose and activities.
Is there also an executive committee?
There is,
Yes.
bylaws.
Right.
Then we'll have the executive committee there too.
I'm not sure who's on that.
It's all
Well, besides me.
Well, vice chair.
Well, it's Ed now.
That's it now.
It's Ed, okay. All right, that sounds fine. Ed and I work with you. Well.
So I want to clarify the committee meetings, because many of us still work for a living. Is electronic means via conference call an acceptable means of holding a committee meeting?
Yeah, but it's 2 members, so you can do a conference call.
Okay.
If you have 3 members and it's a formal meeting, we do have, under our bylaws, we have,
I saw that.
yeah. But then you have to have a quorum in place for a physical quorum, so that when you do call-ins, that's more for if we have 4 people sitting here, then a member can call in. I think it's up to 2 times a year, and you have to give a reason to the chair. But for committees, you only don't have 2 members, so it's fine if you do a conference call.
I think we're gonna get into this a little bit when you do your presentation, if I'm not mistaken, because I do have a concern about what Craig is mentioning, so.
What the committees would meet when the committee decides. It's up to you.
Okay, so if we have a motion to activate, will that satisfy your
To
idea?
do these 2 things, that's what they will do. As long as the
We
minutes
need to
reflect
review what
those.
those 2 things are now?
Number 1, they will meet and be on the agenda each month for a report. And number 2, that they will adopt a, what did you call it, Mark?
Uniform charter.
Uniform charter for each of these committees as for their activities.
Okay.
We'll have to get Mr. Harold to help us create these.
That's very easy.
Okay. So the motion is made, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Now I believe we're in director comments. Any further board members need? Hearing none, we'll go into closed session. If someone lead us into that.
So who has it? She has it.
Hey, where you go?
Excuse me.
Yeah. That's good time to do it.
Who's going to do that?
Mark's going to read it.
Sorry.
I, Baker, move that the Board of the EDA go into closed meeting under the provisions of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act for the following purposes. Section 2.2-3711.A.3. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where a discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the EDA.
Okay, this first, that version's different.
Okay.
Read the agenda now. Sorry. Pick up where you were, just.
Yeah, where was I? Well, Virginia Code 2.2-3711.A.3. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in any open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. I further move that discussion be limited to properties located on Main Street, Stevens Industrial Park, and Fairgrounds Road. Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711.A.5. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. I further move that discussion be limited to businesses to be located on the Stevens Industrial Park, Main Street, Happy Creek area, and or Fairground Road. Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711.A.7. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. I further move that such discussion be limited to the case of Industrial Authority versus Jennifer McDonald et al. And Town of Front Oil versus Industrial Development Authority. Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711.A.8. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. I further move that discussion be limited to the discussion of loans, accounting, and debt service issues and the Afton Inn. Yeah. Good job. We need membership. Yeah, we have to do roll call, but half of them are gone.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just missing 2.
Baker, aye.
That is mine.
Brown eye.
Harold, aye.
Flash,
Okay, let's just swing through Gailey and.
Let me write it down.
All right. We have motions.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to authorize repairs at 514 East Main Street as approved by the insurance company, authorize 4 weeks payment for tenants lodging, and advertise the property for sale at a price of $159,000.
You have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those Opposed? Okay.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the EDA attorney to give notice to the tenants at 506 East Main Street and to advertise the property for $299,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the executive director to solicit proposals and enter into contract with an engineering firm for an amount not to exceed $40,000 for services at the Happy Creek Industrial Park.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
Question, I should have asked it when I got
Yeah.
back. All the notifying the tenants, should there be a time limit on that to give it?
He wanted to look at the contract.
Okay,
He was going to give them a notice according to the contract
okay.
Oh.
at
The tenants?
506.
Yes, I'm gonna read over the contract and see if there is any. I know they do have the option to purchase, but I need to see if there's any notice provision, but I'll send them a letter notifying them, here's the prices for the two properties, and give them so much time in accordance with the contract. If there's not a time in the contract, is there a certain time you want to give them first right of refusal?
30 days.
30 days first right of refusal, okay.
Any further business come before the board?
Well, I think what I'm gonna do on the FOIA presentation, I'm just gonna hand it out to y'all. And then if y'all have it's a FOIA and COIA, so Freedom of Information, Conflict of Interest. And so I'm gonna hand it out. If y'all have any questions, you can just email me or ask at the next meeting. But it's pretty self-explanatory. And sometimes it's just easier reading it yourself, and especially when we're all tired and late in the day.
Okay, no further business come before the board. Meeting is now adjourned.